Welcome to Taking It to the Next Level, a Minnesota Collegiate DECA podcast where we will discuss the world of DECA and talk to professionals about what makes someone successful in today's world. I am your Central Region Vice President, Amy Barch.
I'm State President Zac Spohn. Today it's just Amy and I. We don't have a guest joining us, but that's okay. We're going to talk briefly about the recent announcement that the state conference will be held remotely this year and discuss actually why we're hoping to get some members to run for state office. And hopefully Amy and I can tell you a bit about the experience, why it's unique and why it's still rewarding. And I think that Amy and I would both say that it has been a rewarding experience still, even though that our terms of office have been very different than in past years. For example, we're doing this. Amy and I are recording ourselves through a Zoom call and uploading it all to you, and that's unique. And just to tear back the curtain a bit, we're doing this on Christmas Eve night, and while we're snowed in and it's snowstorm to bring an end to 2020, and I can't think what would be more of a fitting way to sort of end this crazy year.
I totally agree. We definitely have unique takes on this year for state officer and everything else. Also, too, I have a dog in the background, so I apologize if anybody is hearing that noise. But
it's okay. He's our third co-host today.
He's trying to tell you why you would make a good state officer.
Exactly. But before we dive into state officer candidacy and running a little bit, we're going to talk a little bit about the recent announcement from Minnesota Collegiate DECA that our state conference will be virtual this year. It will be held via Zoom and YouTube. It'll be held February 18th to the 22nd. The events have been reduced, but each major competition category is still represented. And even though it is over, you'll be presenting in a Zoom call live to a judge. We still think it's gonna be that important experience for everyone else, and you're still gonna get those DECA skills. So even though it is remote and we can't see everyone, which is disappointing, I think Amy and I are certainly excited, and the rest of our team still is, to hopefully deliver a meaningful and, rewarding experience for all of our members.
Yeah, exactly. And also, too, since we have had 2 online conferences already, I feel like we're better prepared to give everybody at state a really good experience because we know what works and what doesn't. But it should definitely be a fun time. We have lots of good speakers. I'm super excited for our guest speaker. It should be really interesting to hear him talk as well. But everybody just needs to keep having fun. That's the key thing.
Yeah, it's definitely been a unique year, and I think Amy and I both, we would rather be in person, be able to see everyone and get that normal sort of state officer and member experience as well for everyone else. But unfortunately, it's just not the hand we were dealt this year. But I know we're still gonna make the best of it as a state officer team. The leadership at Minnesota Collegiate DECA is still gonna make the best of it, and we encourage all of our members to do the same as well. And our leadership group at Minnesota Collegiate DECA is putting a lot into this, and we're doing some really exciting things as we prepare for it and start really planning down the home stretch here to put this thing together. And I'm really excited to see how it turns out, and I'm sure Amy, you are too.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's gonna be something else. I know it's gonna be great. And we can honestly say that 2020, 2021 state DECA years were the most interesting by far, because we'll have an experience nobody else has had, I bet.
Yeah, and we can kind of roll this into what our experience in state office, running for state office, and what being state officers was like this year, because our term is certainly not going to be as informative to what other terms in state office are like, because like we said, 2020 has been a very, very unique year. I've spent more time here in my childhood bedroom than I ever have before. I'm back at my parents' house. It's where I spent all of spring last year, and now I'm back over winter break, and it feels like I'm in high school again, sitting at my desk and working here. But it's cool. It's different, right? But I think that you and I, we can talk about this a little bit. We've still taken away some really cool experiences. We've definitely gotten some cool skills, and I think that we've still built those connections, at least with each other, maybe not in the way we would with members, but I think through the podcast and some other things, we've been pretty accessible compared to past officer teams to our members as well.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Even though like we've only seen each other in person once since we were elected for state last February already, and we're only going to see each other one more time again in person the week before state. Even despite that, like we've communicated all the time. We talk, we have a group chat. I think that's really important for state officers though, is to have that communication at least weekly, if not almost every day, if not every other day. Because I think that's what really helped us out. Because if we didn't have that, and we didn't have like our motivational Mondays and our tip Thursdays, we probably wouldn't have talked a whole lot and really gotten to know each other.
I think that our team has maybe been more tuned in together with day to day than other officer teams in the past. May have been just because we had in the back of our minds that we might not be seeing each other in person, so we were still always doing things. We're still always planning these podcast episodes, where our virtual conferences, I feel like, require more planning and communication on the front end than if it was in person. Because if it's in person, it's just flows much easier because we've done it before. Everything we're doing this year is new. Like we're writing the playbook for what a virtual officer term and virtual conferences look like for DECA as well. So I think in that respect, we've certainly communicated more. And I would, to your point as well, about how that has it has made us work together as a team more. I remember being told at the state conference last year, when you run for state office, the leadership at Minnesota Collegiate DECA, Jenny's husband, and Kate, and everyone, they tell you that you're going to the state officer team is going to be, you're going to be close, you're going to be like a family. And it's kind of like, yeah, okay, we'll see each other a few times a year, but outside of that, like, it was kind of like, okay, I guess. But that's certainly been the case. I feel like, and like you said, we've only seen each other in person one time since then, but I've definitely gotten to know you all very well along the way, and those connections, I think I'll take with me for hopefully a long time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It just, I don't know, like, I wish I had some wise words of advice for going out and connecting with people in person, but sadly I do not. Besides just have fun. If you, like for our next state officer team, absolutely take advantage. If we are no longer in quarantine then and you can go out, take advantage of that. Go out, make connections, build DECA like even bigger than it is. Because we're trying now over virtual, but it can be really hard because so many people are just tired of looking at faces on screens. I know I'm super excited to see our team again in person. That should be a lot of fun. We hopefully some videos will come out of that for us to share with everybody at state conference, and it'll be nice to see everybody kind of united together. But
yeah, so we've said that we're doing some exciting things for state conference this year, but they pull back the curtain. The state officer team is meeting one more time together. We're getting together for a few days, social distance style and everything like that, but we're going to get together and record a whole bunch of things that we're going to be doing for the state conference, since it is virtual, and we're really excited to do that. And like we said, it's kind of an exciting opportunity because we're given a lot of leeway on our own, because it's the first year that everything has had to be virtual, and we're and that in that sense, it's kind of been a fun year because we're making it up as we go a little bit, and that's can be a daunting task. But I think that it's been fun as well to kind of be creative with our podcast, and I think we've created something here where hopefully this isn't over when our terms are up in office, that the next officer team carries on as well, and that can be sort of our legacy. But I think that creativity doesn't have to be unique to our officer team. And Jenny, the executive director, and everyone else really gives you, empowers you to kind of do what you want as a leader to when you are leading this organization for a year.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, Zac, too, like we made the podcast kind of like our own, but for like we want to keep it going though. So if what we do isn't working, but you like the idea, take our idea and better it, run with it, do something with it. Don't just like let it fizzle. Nobody likes a fizzle. Just do whatever makes your team feel the best, like what works. I think this is a great way though because everything is so virtual right now, like it still helps get entrepreneurs and small business owners and people with good mindsets on here and able to talk to you guys. That way you guys are still able to learn and connect and listen to things that can help you in not only DECA, but your careers. That's one of the major benefits of these, I think. And then we also have like super casual ones like this, where it's just kind of, oh, let's talk about this and this. And it's also kind of fun too, because you get to see our real personalities rather than us in front of a ton of people acting all professional.
Yeah, that's true. Like the in conference and then in some of these episodes, it's definitely we've had more professional showings kind of, but even like, but this right now, I mean, we're in 2020, right? We're snowed in. We're at our parents' house. This is life right now, and I think that it's still cool that we're able to show this side of us as state officers, and we're able to be real about like what this is, and that's what's cool about doing this for the first time too. Like we said, we're making up as we go with these podcasts. Some of them are, and all the other virtual stuff we're doing this year, we're making up with as we go. And I'm sure that whatever the officer team that follows us will change it and make it better and better. And we're excited to see what that looks like. Speaking of running for state office, Amy and I have kind of talked about what our term in office has been like. It hasn't been what any of us expected, but leaders we're making the best of it. But let's circle back to like the original process maybe of running for state office. So when you run there, you can go on the Minnesota Collegiate DECA website and check out the officer packet and everything like that, what you have to do. Amy and I aren't going to go through the entire packet tonight. That would be rather boring. But just know that to declare to run, you have to do that by February 1st. There's our third co-host chiming in. He's very excited. He wants all of you to run for state office.
He does.
Yeah. So Amy, what made you want to run for state office? Because I think there's a lot of people, especially in the virtual world we're in now, they're kind of like, why would I want to do this? What should I do this? Because there's been a whole year now where just people haven't been exposed to that in-person kind of DECA experience. And I think especially now, like we're trying to pull back the curtain what the experience is like, but it's tough to know, right? Because we're just, like it's through a screen now. We're not getting to see each other. So what made you want to do this in the first place?
One of the main reasons, if I'm being honest, is my instructor. She's just and Jenny. I knew Jenny from before DECA. I lived in the same town as her. And
Jenny, by the way, is the executive director of Minnesota Collegiate DECA, for those of you that don't know.
Yep. She popped in and out. She's been in all the conferences with us. But basically they both, I just was thinking, I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to run for state officer, kind of jokingly. And they looked at me and they're just like, no, you will run for state officer. I was like, oh, okay. So I applied, but I also applied kind of, I never really applied for any office kind of in high school or leadership position, and I realized that I had wanted to, and that was on me, and I wanted to step up and make a difference somehow. And I knew that by running for state office that I would be able to do that. I would be able to impact not only my life and learn things, but impact other people's lives. So that was really important to me. And also too, like, it was fun. I'm not gonna lie, I like being a little bit competitive. So like it was fun like having that competition style, but in the end you're put into an office position, and while it's all like fun and games, like you do really build a connection, which I knew would happen, and I really appreciate it because when you're in a team, like you just want to make the best of it, and get to know the person, because it's really no fun like when you're on a team and you're all supposed to be working together, and it just, you guys just don't work together like that. It makes it no fun for anybody.
And I think that all of us were probably a little worried about that when it just, everything was like, okay, we're all just going to meet each other through screens now. We aren't going to see each other and be able to do anything together really this entire year. But I even like virtually, I've been able to see how our team has grown a little bit. Like I feel like I've seen people come out of their shell, even just like speaking through Zoom calls and taking on things that they want to do as an officer, like different things that they want to do, different projects. And I think that that's really cool to see. And like you said, it's not, groups aren't cool when you have people that aren't maybe pulling their end of their weight, but that hasn't been the case for our DECA experience as a state officer team. And I think that that's cool that we didn't have to worry about that while we were virtual. And I think that that's something that you can expect anyways, even if you're a regular state officer team.
Yeah, we had a special guest appearance. My mom is in the background, so she wanted to make a guest appearance. So it's okay. Yeah, and I definitely kind of agree with that too. Even though we were all like not really in person with each other, we all held each other accountable though. Like for our like tip Mondays or tip Thursdays and motivational Mondays, like it was always in the group chat the night before or the morning of, like, hey, whose week is it, like who's going to be posting something. And I think that was really important for us, is making sure that we held each other accountable, especially like when we had meetings and everything else. Like we got together for Zoom meetings. It's difficult to get 6-7 people together all at one time for a meeting.
You think about this officer team too, how big our team is. Like most state officer teams, I think, are normally like
three or four.
Yeah. We have 6 of us, which is very cool. But like you said, it does make everything more difficult to get everyone together and get everyone on the same page. But we've still been able to do that, and I think that the fact that we have so many different members that are coming from different experiences during the pandemic, it really informs some of the things that we should be doing or how we should be doing things as well, which I think is has been really beneficial during the pandemic.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It just, there's really nothing else like this. As much as we keep saying it, there's really nothing else like this year. Like we have tons of advice for next year if everything does happen to be virtual again for a lot of things. So one thing that we wanted in our kind of, at the beginning of the year, we had made a list of things that we wanted to accomplish. And I know that one of them that we talked about was having our state officers be more accessible. That doesn't necessarily mean just us being accessible while we're in office. If you reach out to us, like if any state officers or regular DECA members, we will gladly help you out with something. I think that is super important because we are in a unique year again. And it just, if it's like that next year, we know what works and what doesn't, and we want you to reach out to us. We want everything to run as smoothly as possible, and we want to be able to help.
Yeah, and talking to people about like coming on like this show even, it really has shown me that the DECA people are willing to do whatever to help you out. I I haven't had anyone that I've tried to like schedule to like come on this podcast say no. Like I like you DECA people are going to be willing to go the extra mile for you and do what you sort of need them, or not need them to, but want them to. Like they're more than willing to help you out. It's quite the we have a very awesome alumni network for sure that are willing to go the extra mile, and I think that that's the case just because of what DECA does for people. I think we started this conversation by talking about why we wanted to run for state office. I did it because DECA had done a lot for me. I've told this story on here before, but if you hadn't heard it, I came familiar with DECA when I was in high school, and I was not a good student in high school. My goal every single day was to go to school, have fun, not really learn a lot. I was a slacker. I slacked off, but I started in DECA in high school, and it really gave me something I wanted to go to school and I wanted to like do during the school day. And it was something I took seriously, and that gave me sort of a structure, and it gave me a purpose, and it made me better academically, and it made it so that I could go to college. And I was fortunate enough to be involved in DECA in college, and I thought, I'm sure that there's plenty of other people like me, or there's plenty of other people that DECA has made that impact in their lives, and this was my way of sort of giving back to that and helping those people get helping members get those experiences that I'm so thankful for as well. And I've met, and I'm sure every single member of our state officer team has those similar stories about how much DECA has meant to them, and that's why they wanted to do this. And I know that seems cliche, but that's real. I've talked to people on this podcast that's why, like, everyone's intentions in DECA are usually pretty pure. Like there's a lot of competitive people, but that's competition for competition's sake. Like that's good, that's healthy, and I think that that's another part of what makes DECA so great as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Zach. I still can't believe that you are a slacker. That you seem like you're anything but a slacker.
I know. I was quite the slacker. I tell this joke. My goal every single day in high school was to show up and like make it like an episode of The Office. Like I just was not interested in learning. I was interested in having fun. But DECA changed that for me, and still don't take myself too seriously, but definitely DECA definitely taught me when the right time was to maybe take things seriously.
Yeah,
sure.
it definitely it there's a lot of skills that DECA can teach you. I know for me it's helped out a lot with time management, and also just making sure I'm communicating with people. It's so easy to just not respond to somebody, leave them on red, and just kind of put it at the back of your mind. But having people who hold you accountable and making sure that you're in communication with them, I think is extremely important, because you can't fall out of communication at work or with your family or life or anything else. It's really hard to get back into it. So
being a part of the state officer team, especially in addition to DECA helping with those things, being part of like a leadership group and being part of a state officer group leading an organization really helps you with those things. I have people that ask me like if state or being a state officer is too much of a time commitment. Like I feel like it's not too much of a time commitment. I mean, if you're doing this, you're doing it because it's something that you want to do. So, and that makes it easier any sort of time commitment you have. But I mean, I'm involved. I mean, Amy, everyone on our team has some kind of job. Everyone on our team is a full-time student. Everyone on our team is part of Collegiate DECA. And I think this year we've had more time commitments with DECA just because of virtual and figuring and having to plan everything from scratch this year because everything we're doing is from scratch in a lot of ways. And I still think that we've had plenty of time, and at no point was this obligation as a state officer, at no point did that feel overwhelming. It was definitely my manageable time commitment. So if you're thinking about running for state office, I wouldn't let that discourage you from wanting to run. Do you agree with that, Amy?
I would agree with that, but also too, I say that our 2020-2021 state officer team can't accurately say how much time it will take out of your schedule, though, just because we weren't able to go anywhere and connect with schools or go to different conferences. We could have been able to go to different conferences around the US, like out in Chicago and everything else. And we weren't able to do that. Do I regret it? Yes, absolutely. I would have gladly taken time out of my schedule to go network with people around the US. I think that's extremely valuable. So no, I agree with that, Zac. It's, if you really like DECA and you really want to make a difference and be involved, it doesn't really take much time commitment. But also too, we were in a virtual year, so it's a little bit easier to sit down at your computer and get stuff done. But no, I definitely think that if time should not be a factor, or whether or not you should apply or not. Our executive director, Jenny Klassen, we mentioned her previously, she always says that school comes first, which is really important, because if you're not passing school, well, you can't be in DECA.
Yeah. What's her line? You can't be a student leader if you're not a student.
Yeah, you have to student first.
Yeah.
And so she completely understands, just communicate with your leaders above you, all the directors and everything else. If you're feeling like you need to prioritize something, or talk more about your time management and everything else, and just kind of take a step back, talk to your leaders, and they will find a solution. Nobody wants you to quit when you're in state office. Nobody wants that. Just find a solution. There's always a solution.
Yeah. And I would say, when you're on this team, you learn pretty well what your strengths kind of are. And I think that your team does a very good job of taking advantage of those strengths and putting people in a position to succeed. I think that DECA does that, and DECA does that for sure, just in competition. But when you're a state officer, they really do that for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So we're getting towards the end of our sort of time in office together. What is going to be, like we said, our time together in office, and our team's time together in office has been especially unique. It's not going to be what other officer teams experience in a lot of ways, I'm sure. But what's your big takeaway? Is it something that you is it a project we did? Is it something you learned? Is it something that you learned about yourself? I don't know. What makes this so that it was an experience that you don't regret, I guess?
I would have to say probably being open to meeting new people and learning how to properly network, because that is extremely important. It's easy to go out and strike up a conversation with to somebody about something meaningless, but if you want to have a meaningful conversation and learn something, DECA is a great way to do that, I feel like, because then you're able to actually better yourself, gain more knowledge about whatever you want to go in. So I think that's really important. It also helps if you run for a leadership position. It helps you learn how to connect with your team in an effective way as well.
Yeah. I agree with what you had to say there. This being in this role, definitely we're in this role because we're all pretty good at talking with people and getting along with others, but this being in this position definitely makes you take it a step further by having not just normal conversations, but pretty meaningful conversations and planning conversations and everything like that. And I think that's especially been the case for us because there's nothing that this team is doing that isn't different. Like we're making up as we go, and that's been meaningful for sure. And we've learned a lot about each other as we've kind of gone through it, I think, which has been awesome. If I had to say what my biggest kind of takeaway from this has been, or like what it taught me about myself, I think it definitely showed I think being in leadership roles, but I think especially being in a role like this when you're faced with all of these crazy circumstances,
adversities,
all of the adversity, like recording a podcast on Christmas Eve in a snowstorm and a global pandemic. It definitely teaches you like what you're capable of, or how far you're kind of willing to go to make something work. And I think that I've learned that there's not going to be a challenge in front of me where I'm going to think that it's really too daunting after this, because this has been like running for state office is a little bit daunting in itself. Like you're putting yourself out there for sure. And then this year it's been like, okay, well, nothing we planned on doing is nothing we thought it was going to look like is what it did look like. And so that's a whole new set of challenges. And after this, I feel like it's not going to be a set of challenges where I'm really like, that's too hard. And I think that that's kind of a byproduct of the circumstances this year in the role we were in. But I think that would be the case in a lot of ways as well if this was a normal year too.
Yeah, I totally agree. Basically, learning from us, or a funny, wise piece of advice I have is just laugh, yeah. Have fun, make the best of a bad situation. We say all the time, like we joke around like, oh, it's 2020 and everything else. But for me personally, I don't take it too seriously, because if we look at it and look back, it's been a pretty fast year, at least. Like we've had so much stuff go on. I don't know where the year went. But
I know, yeah. Like we definitely you do have to make the best of it, and I think that that's what leadership is a little bit. But I think that that's also just what successful people do. They make the best of the circumstances that they're given, and I think that we've done that. DECA teaches you to do that. Being a state officer teaches you to do that, and I think that that's been rewarding. And I think that that's why I'd encourage anyone that's thinking about running. I don't think that it's going to be an experience that you regret if you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you don't have anything else, Zac, I think we can start wrapping it up.
Sure. Just one last thing. If you are running for state office, but I'll mention this again, the application deadline is February 1st. So it'll be about a month from when this podcast is released.
Yep. All right. And now to all of our listeners, don't forget that throughout our series of podcasts leading up to the state conference in February, the state officer team will be continuing to share their stories and the stories of others surrounding Minnesota Collegiate DECA. Once again, I am your Vice President, Amy Barch.
And I'm State President Zac Spone. From all of us at Minnesota Collegiate DECA, we hope you are enjoying a safe and healthy holiday season. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to tune in next time.